Oh, good afternoon. It's again Friday. As a matter of fact, it's a Good Friday. And this is Danny K. Davis, your host for the next 25 minutes of Hotline 21, a most engaging, interactive cable television opportunity. For I try and come in whenever I can get here on time on a Friday to share with you, my listeners and viewers, some of what may have taken place in the House of Representatives and even the Senate or at your federal government this week. Of course, I spent a lot of time in the airport because, I went to catch a plane at 6 o'clock in the morning because I wanted to get to Washington so that I would be there in time to meet with some individuals who were coming to talk about the food stamp program and the SNAP benefits and representatives from the Chicago Food Depository. So I caught a plane at 6. I'd gotten up at 4 in order to get there. So immediately I went to sleep and the plane took off. Next thing I knew, we were getting off the plane and I'm thinking we're in Washington, D.C. And I looked and it looked strange to be Washington. We were back in the airport in Chicago. And they put us off that plane.
Oh my goodness.
Because it had some mechanical problems. And so they kept saying, okay, we'll get you back on, so and whatever. Well, eventually they decided that they'd not try that plane. They'd see if they could get us another plane. Oh, but I finally got to Washington. It was about 2 p.m. in the afternoon after having been at the airport since 6 o'clock that morning. And we managed to get through the day and everything and did whatever it is that we needed to do. And so I am grateful, I am thankful, I am delighted. I did, in fact, end up talking to the people from the Food Depository on the telephone while I was still at O'Hara, and we managed to get that done. We had a sort of an abbreviated week because Republicans were having a difficult time getting enough votes to pass the items that they wanted to pass, which is pretty unusual. I say it's not unusual for this group, but it's unusual that the majority has difficulty getting its members to agree to pass legislative items that the Speaker would like to get passed, when and where and how. And so those are what I call abbreviated kinds of meetings where you think you're going to be voting. It's a 15-minute vote, and the vote may be held over for 3 or 4 hours or 5 or 6 hours or 7 or 8 hours. And so the vote is still going on, but it has not been completed because those are stalling tactics. They are all kinds of things that people can do. There's so much to learn about most things that many of us and many people think they just kind of automatically know. And the reason I sometimes say that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, my daddy used to say that. And he would say you have to drink deep because shallow drinking intoxicates the brain. And so meaning that you need to learn as much as you can possibly learn. There's always enough to keep learning. I never shall forget one time my sister and I'm going to introduce our guest, we were kind of children, not activists in the sense of the word that we call it, but we were children who went to church. At my house growing up, my mother, somehow or another, had been around people, and she believed in programs. So we used to have programs at home. There were 9 of us, and so my mother would have a program, and everybody would have to be on program. My oldest sister was actually 20 years older than my youngest sister, and all of the rest of us were in between. So there were generally at least 7 or 8 of us at home at the same time. And so we had enough people to have our own program. And thank God for Mother Dear. We called her Mud Dear, Mrs. Maisie Lee Davis, because she'd have us learning little speeches and learning little things, and everybody would have to say a Bible verse when you got ready to eat. If you didn't know a Bible verse, you couldn't eat. You had to say some if it wasn't nothing but Jesus wept, John slept, and Jack fell off the back door step. But you and I am so grateful that she taught us to explore things, to read, and try to know things. And she had finished the 8th grade and was considered to have gone to school. My father had finished the 4th grade. He was 19 years old and in the 4th grade. We saw his report card. But he was a great teacher, and he would try to teach us how to learn stuff. And he'd say, "Okay, little boy, spell cat, C-A-T." And then he said, "Well, let me see if you can spell big little cat." And he said, K-I-T-T-E-N, kitten, whatever they could do. So I thank God for my parents. But in the studio with me is Christian Strydom. And Christian, we are talking today about what the Supreme Court did as one thing, but I really want to mention before I get to the Supreme Court, our community experienced a great tragedy in terms of the death of Caleb Dear and his mother, Barbara Dear. Their homegoing services or funeral services were held earlier today at the United Baptist Church on West Roosevelt Road. Great, big, beautiful church that the parishioners in a community that is a seriously low-income community built. And those of us who have been a part of that community and who lived in it and grew up in it have been so proud of the United Baptist Church until it ain't funny. As a matter of fact, our chest sticks out when we go there. As a matter of fact, when my father died, we had 2 funerals for him. One was here in Chicago. We had it at the United Baptist Church. And then we took him down to Dermot, Arkansas, where he wanted to be finally in place, and we had another funeral. And that's where we buried him down the road from the house that he had built and where he had lived. But anyway, all of that is history. But the homegoing ceremony for the dear members, Barbara and Caleb. Caleb, 23 years old, wonderful young fella. Obviously, some challenges occurred in his life. Barbara, a superb woman, professional. The 2 remaining members of that family, Trinity and Canaan, made some of the most profound comments that I've ever heard in my life. And I think our whole community is so proud of them till we don't know what to do, other than to say to them, well done, and wish for them the continuation of blessed lives as they piece together their lives and move ahead to be and do what God will have them to do. But we say to them, your parents, your community, your family have to be proud of your strength, the characterization of your being, and how you have handled this tragic situation. God bless you. I don't know if you've got any parting words you'd like to say in relationship to that. If so, please.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Congressman. And as always, starting off the show, thank you for your service. We know it was a tumultuous and a long week in Washington, D.C., representing us on the Hill. So we thank you for your service. And to the Dare family, to that family, to the friends of that family, and Congressman, we know that you were very close with the Dare family. In fact, Caleb Dare was an intern with you, I believe. And
Both of them.
Both of them. And you spoke at the funeral today. It was a beautiful service, well attended, and extremely thoughtful. And our hearts go out to the Dare family and friends. And, Congressman, it puts things into perspective, dealing with certain tragedies and challenges in our community. And unfortunately, today is no different, or this week.
Well, we'll get beyond that, and we will keep on moving. But the Supreme Court dealt a heavy blow to what we know and have known as civil rights, as voting rights, as human rights, and picked apart some of the protections relative to redistricting and shaping districts so that people could elect individuals to represent them in the House of Representatives, the U.S. Congress. Of course, we've been taking census since 1790 in this country. And the way the Constitution is shaped and set up, we count the people every 10 years. And then after the people are counted, we kind of divide them into 435 districts. And that's how we create congressional districts. And of course, political groups and parties and people, period, are always seeking advantage over other people. When two athletic events, adversaries get together, each one would like to win. If there are two boxers, they both want to be the champion. If there are two basketball teams, they both want to win.
True.
If there are two different number of competitors in a running match, in a track meet, they all want to win. And so people do what they can do to try and win.
True.
I mean, I used to have a baseball team. And I used to say to my team, to the boys, it's not always whether you win or lose. It's the way you play the game. And I remember one little boy said to me one day, he said, Mr. Davis, he said, we hear you, but we would like to win. And sometimes I remember I had a team. My team was the Oakland Athletics, because I always believed in working with people in groups. You let them make a lot of the decisions themselves. And I was totally dumbfounded when my boys named themselves the Oakland Athletics. I just couldn't understand it. James Dean was an education activist in our community and all. He had a team called the White Sox, and I had another team, the 29th Ward Warriors. I was the alderman. And these boys named themselves the Oakland Athletics. And I say, this just don't make any sense at all. But that's what our team was. Ricky Hendon had a team.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we were young ourselves and running around playing and enjoying stuff and life and getting involved in community and politics and all of that. But the Supreme Court gutted voter protection rights and civil rights and really took the stuff out of protection from overt gerrymandering. And that's where you create districts in such a way that they advantage or leave out the opportunity for this concept of one person, one vote. And so that's designed to try and keep Republicans, I think, in the majority in terms of the ability to determine who controls Congress, especially in the House of Representatives. And that's important because in the Senate, of course, people run statewide, and they have to win the whole state in order to be a United States Senator. But if people live in a certain area, they can get elected to Congress, to the House, and not necessarily think the same way that somebody 500 miles away think. And that helps to balance out the decision making. Well, the Supreme Court said, we are going to let things get shaped in such a way that you can seriously use gerrymandering to create these districts, and we're going to say it's legal and you can do it, and it's just got us up in arms. What's your notion about that?
Sir, I think the whole nation has been taken by surprise at the horrible seeds that President Donald Trump has sowed with setting up as many judges as he could in our court system, especially on our Supreme Court, which at one point in time for years, you've always maintained that you looked up to the Supreme Court. In fact, the nation did, as the one safe place for our society to shape our policies, shape our laws. And it just feels like it has gotten politicized. And I mean the Supreme Court. And when it comes down to our laws and our fairness and our equity, I think our society itself is at risk for taking not just steps back, but taking steps forward towards its very own destruction for our democracy, sir.
Well, I always thought, and I think many people felt, that the Supreme Court was going to always follow the Constitution and what the Constitution said. And people thought that's what the Supreme Court would do, because only the best, the brightest, the most integrous individuals were going to be there. It seems as though politics now is a real hardline factor in the court business, and that the president nominates individuals, but individuals who are going to think and follow his way of thinking. And that's how they're going to make decisions, and not on the interpretation of the Constitution. And I think that's a sad day for America, but it's what's going on, and it's so unfortunate.
Yes, sir.
Now, what do we do about it? That becomes the question. You get the first shot at that.
Sir, we need to vote. I mean, it's not a broken record. Everybody that's out there that's listening, come and vote. Make sure you tell your friends, your family, your children, you have to vote. What the congressman, your representative, is outlining for you is the fact we can't fight with our hands tied behind our backs. We need other congressmen and congresswomen that are going to help us make things right with our laws and our policies. If people don't go out to vote, sir, there's not much we can do.
So voting is the protection. It's the greatest and highest level of protection that we have to make real the Constitution that we've been taught to believe in, that all people are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. And those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and should be treated exactly the same way to try and make that happen. So that ends our discussion today. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Christian, for joining with us. And hopefully, if the good Lord bless and the river don't rise, we'll see you next Thursday at 6:35. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.